Ah, looks like we're live. Yes. Hello, everybody. I guess I can just talk. I don't have to write comments. All right, let's see here. Interesting. Doesn't actually tell me if anyone is watching, so I could be performing for dozens of people or nobody. Yeah, this is my first time on AMA, on Facebook Live, so we'll see. Aha! I see a thumbs up from Jeff. All right, so I know there's at least one person watching. So if you have questions, my name is R.Cordell, and I've been a novel writer for the Forgotten Realms and other places for quite a while now. And I've actually had, it might be 8 Forgotten Realms novels because one of the other novels I wrote was for straight up D&D. Hey, Jeff. And I've actually written a more recent novel as well. It just came out. So that's kind of my Forgotten Realms background, novel writing. I also worked extensively in the game design side for working on the Forgotten Realms. I came out with a few supplements in the Forgotten Realms. I worked with the team. I actually helped put together the Forgotten Realms guide for one of the previous editions of the game. And I also worked with the RPGA during the period of time when the Forgotten Realms was part of that program. I worked extensively with Susan Morris to help look at the adventures as they were being written. All right, looks like some questions are starting to come in. And thank you, Mike Furman, for having me on here. And good morning to you too, Mike. Let's look at the first question that I have here. This is from Trampus, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. He'd like to know, is wondering if my thoughts were in the direction WotC has taken with Psionics, and I might be working with any third-party Psionics materials. Psionics has a history of going through lots of changes. And certainly I was one of the agents for those changes during the 3rd edition era when the expanded Psionics Handbook came out. I am totally happy with the direction they're going, and I'm not currently working on any Psionics material. I'm actually being kept pretty busy right now working on my own stuff for MCG, both novels and games. But you know, it's certainly not something out of the question. As probably many of you know, Psionics is very close to my heart. My car, in fact, the car I drive has Psionic as the license plate. So something I think about. Hey, Kelly. Kelly wants to know, or actually, what is my favorite Realms project? Well, that is a difficult question to answer, Kelly. I think probably one of the, each one of the novels was probably my favorite as it came along, until the next one came along. I adored my very first Realms novel, which was Lady of Poison, and I adored my very last one, which was Spinner of Lies, the second novel in the Sword of the Gods series. Well, duology, I guess you'd call it, since only 2 ended up coming out. So yeah, each and every one, the characters. Sorry about that. It looked like there was some sort of connection problem there. Hopefully all that came along. I think the gist of that answer was that I have a hard time picking a favorite. I love all the novels I think the best. The game material, also wonderful. It was actually really nice and probably a very privileged position to be working both on game design and writing novels simultaneously, because there was a lot of cohesion, a lot of cross cross-pollination I was able to accomplish if I could write a game product that referenced a certain entity or new area, such as Underdark, the third edition version of the Forgotten Realms Underdark. Since I wrote many of the entities and situations in there, I was able to take those and utilize them in Dark Vision, for instance. So that worked out really well. All right, looks like some questions are starting to scroll off here. Hold on so I don't lose any of these. Josh would like to know if there are any areas of the realms that I've wanted to explore but haven't had the chance. There are a few, actually. Although with the most recent changes to the realms, now there are even more, right? I was sort of interested in the other realm that had come across the sea. I would have liked to have explored that a lot more. And Greenwood created that area for the 4th edition version of the realms, kind of as the worlds were kind of re-overlapping. I actually did write a short story set on that side of that continent that appeared in not Realms of War, but actually have to, maybe Realms of the Dead. One of those short story compilations. I actually don't have it right in front of me, so foolishly. So that, and also, you know, there's a lot, but that comes to mind right off the top of my head. All right, Mike has a question from Kendra Lawrence, could not attend, and I guess all you can read these as well, but I'm just going to read it out loud so I can get it into my own head. So Raiden Cain in the Abelethic Sovereignty gets Angul, which is a sword. Oh, sorry if you're spoiling this for everyone who hasn't read the series. And it sounds like Nangulis' soul. This is a character. This was a side character introduced in Stardeep. Was either finally released or vanished, or is he still part of the sword? What happened to him? Angul still Angul, but that part confused me. All right, well that is a good question, and actually probably one that I would need to go back and research, because I do remember there is some redemption there. Essentially, the soul, the actual, you know, in the construction of the realms, the soul that was Nangulis was indeed released, but the kind of pattern, the memory set, some of the residual magic remained, and that allowed Angul to retain a lot of its abilities, although not necessarily the actual soul of Nangulis. So that answer is a subject for me to go back and do a little bit more research to make sure that that's what I intended. I see what you're asking, but I remember dealing with that, and I think that was my answer. Just better written, of course. Hey Eric, Eric's Got to Be's here. I hope all's well with you as well. Let's see. We have a Joel asking a question, and he was saying, if you could see any characters in the realms in a novel together, who would you like to see? Well, you know, I think any... if you're a writer, you probably have a certain affection for your own characters. And of course you like other characters in other novels, and you kind of would like to see them get together. And even if briefly, or even if for a drink in a bar, right? And I guess it would be a very pat and easy answer to say that I would like to see Raiden Cain or you know, I would even among my own characters, I would like to see Raiden Cain get together with Damascus from the later books. But you know, I would like to have some see Damascus meet Drizzt and you know, some of the other well-known characters that that Bob Salvatore has made so popular. That would be awesome, I think. Oh, you're welcome, Josh. Hey, Mike is asking a question. He's saying, how great is it working with Monte Cook Games? The company is really putting out some great products. Well, it is pretty awesome. I I really feel like so as some of you may or may not know, in 2013, which is getting to be almost 4 years ago, but in like the middle, late 2013, I left Wizards of the Coast and went on board with Monte Games to start working on games and novels, as it turns out, through them. And it really kind of revitalized my creative spirit. I I've been 100% wonderfully happy with working with them. I was able to work with Monte, a longtime friend, to create. We co-authored The Strange together, which was actually based on a novel that I had decided to write, a science fiction novel, and that novel never ended up getting written until recently. Sorry, called Myth of the Maker. That's right here, but it spawned a game first, and I've been working on The Strange and Numenera. In fact, a product just came out, the Bestiary 2 for Numenera. As you can see, I'm an author on it. This is actually almost 200 pages of fabulously creepy creatures. This little, excuse me, head tick is one of my favorites. Anyway, yeah, I really love working on working with MCG because it's a very small company. There's not the bureaucracy of a huge corporation, and we're all friends, so that makes it really nice. And it's allowed me to really explore a lot of my passions. And they were gracious enough to publish my latest novel as well. So I kind of, both my game design side of things, which I love, but also I love writing fiction, which is a different sort of writing. And the fact that I am able to do both has been really wonderful. Okay, I need to move on so I don't lose these next questions. Trampus asks again, I guess that must be how to pronounce your name since you're not telling me otherwise. How did you transition from game designer to also being an author? Oh, you did say pretty well. Okay, good. All right, well, I said before that I had a privileged position, and the fact that Wizards of the Coast, originally TSR, when I was still working out in Lake Geneva, had both a game design side and a novel publishing department was very useful because I could go and I could talk to those people and eventually learn that it wasn't outside the realm of possibility that I could write, but I would have to ask and show that I was capable of doing so. So I started probably in the late 90s. Within a couple of years of working there, talking to the novel department, Phil Athens, who, he wasn't head right then, but whoever was head back then, Peter, and oh man, a couple other people whose names I should know, Pierce, back then, and saying, hey, I would be interested in writing novels. They'd be like, oh yeah. So this went on for several years, and probably at least 5 years, and they said, well, we'll give you this project. And we had I guess it was probably Wizards by this point, had this whole program worked out. There was going to be something released on Cartoon Network with this other entity, and it was going to be based on this old video game, an old arcade game. I'm not going to say what, because I probably was under NDA. And so I wrote I began writing anyway, a choose-your-own-adventure style adventure for this property. And I probably finished half the book before the entire thing fell apart, and there was no cartoon, there were no novels, there were no stand your own, and so, but based on that, Phil Athens saw the work I had done on that, and asked me then next to say, well, it was kind of almost like an audition, and he asked me to be one of the TH lanes for the D&D 3rd edition novels. And so I wrote Oath of Nerul as T.H. Lane. It's the 3rd book in that series. And that was apparently met to his satisfaction. It was Phil by this point, Phil Athens. And he invited me to start writing, he asked me if I would be interested in writing one of the Priest's books for Forgotten Realms. So that was how I got Lady of Poison. So that worked out really well. And that went on from there. let's see. I have to backtrack here a little bit. Hello, hey Valerie. What's my view on anti-Sonic's powers? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by anti-Sonic's powers. Probably something very obvious, but it's not coming through exactly what it is you mean right now. So if you could clarify later, I will get back to that question. But for now, I will not go off on some tangent that's probably not even correct. Sorry about that. Yeah, but just clarify and I will answer it later. Mike says we have another question from Trampus. He would like to know what he... Wait. Oh no, yeah, this is it. Like to know what I think, probably, of the direction that WotC is taking with Sonic's... Wait. I feel like I answered this question already. Yeah, I guess someone else asked this question, and I'm happy with the direction of the Sonics and the new Mystic class. But I'm, as you may know, I'm not like in the loop any longer since I'm working at MCG, so I don't have any details on when and where. I did have contact with Wizards very recently though, because of course they're coming out with Tales from the Yawning Portal, and I was very honored that they selected one of my 3rd edition adventures, Sunless Citadel, to appear in there as updated to 5th edition, and they let me know that they would like to send me some contributor copies. So I was like, yes, thank you very much. So good, on good terms, just not not in the loop as far as game design anymore, since we've got Numenera and the Strange and Invisible Sun to work on at MCG. All right. Christopher La Rosa, hopefully I got that right, is asking if there are any plans in writing any more Realms novels or supplements. Well, I guess to answer that short, no. That's probably, I would be interested in writing more Realms novels if the terms were right, but it doesn't seem like Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, whoever is interested in re-establishing their novels department to the extent they had it before. It was once a very robust, big part of TSR and was even Wizards of the Coast, but a variety of unfortunate things, including the market itself, that whole department has pretty much dismantled, I guess you would say. So if they were to ever bring it back, and things change all the time, and they were interested in contacting me, or I would even write the 3rd book in my Sword of the Gods trilogy, which I had been contracted to do, but when my terms were changed on the 2nd novel, we both agreed that writing a 3rd novel was probably not the way to go. So yeah, no, I love the Realms, and I would write again if the opportunity presented itself, and the terms were good. So yeah, of course, love it. But no plans to do so. All right, Mike's telling me we have a question from Kevin McFadden. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. From Lady of Poison through Stardeep, I took secondary characters and gave them the spotlight in the next novel. Planned or happened organically? Sort of a little of both. Initially, not a plan, right? Because I only had one novel, which was Lady of Poison. But when you have all these secondary characters, you don't really have the pressure on you as the writer to I don't know. There's a kind of a weird sort of pressure you feel to get it exactly right when you're writing the main character. The secondary characters can be a little weirder. They can be a little more atypical, and that often turns out to be, I felt that way to me anyway, that these characters would make great primary characters and explore some of those idiosyncratic behaviors and things that we had discovered about them in the previous novel. So organically, the first time at least, maybe even the second time, but yeah, by the third or fourth time, uh, I pretty much had hit on I thought, a winning sort of strategy, and that also allowed me to keep an internal continuity for all my novels. So even though they were kind of spread across multiple different specific novel lines, like the priests, the dungeons, so on and so forth, the Abilethic sovereignty, I was able to have an internal consistency. So for anyone who would read my novels, they would say, "Ah, I remember this character, and now I get to find out more about this character." So that was very much true. And the only time I broke that was Sword of the Gods, where I had a clean break, a completely new character. Although even then, some of you may know that there was a character from the Abilethic sovereignty who came to, and had a part to play in the Sword of the Gods duology. Thank you. That was a good question. All right. Odd Harald Reme asks. He's been playing, or sorry, he's been playing since 1989. Now a DM. I enjoy lore-based self-made games. If I had to choose, would I expand with new creative lore or dig deeper into existing lore? I had to choose. That's a very good question. I like both. There's a continuum. I don't think it's an either or for me. If I had to choose, that makes it difficult. I think because the realms is so deep in lore, I would probably choose to dig deeper into existing lore, and therefore I would try to kind of enliven that lore as well if possible. And in that way, if I had to choose, that would be the way to go, I think, because we already have so much lore, and actually showing spotlights on some of that lore and treating it in new ways that we haven't seen before. I mean, a lot of it is just paragraphs that could be turned out into whole novels, right? So yeah, I thought that might be a fun way to go for Forgotten Realms, if I had to choose. Generally speaking, as a writer, I think I do like coming up with new lore, though, as well, not only, but that also has a great appeal to me. All right. Daniel asks, I co-wrote the Reverse Dungeon with John D. Ratliff for AD&D. So where did that idea come from? So that project was going on outside of my direct involvement for a little while, and something came up, and John, basically his schedule had been shortened, so I jumped in to help out. So I wasn't there during the initial planning stages for that project, but I was happy to be part of it because it turned out to be really fun. Now, if I were to guess, though, this is totally a guess, there was a video game out about that time, and I don't know what the name of it is now because it's been too many years, but it kind of had the conceit that the adventurers coming into the dungeon were, the monsters, and the monsters had to set up their dungeon to keep them out. I think it's been so many years, but I think that may have been the seed, whatever this game was, if even that is true. But that's kind of my the canon I have in my head of where that came from, which, we know how memories are. Could be totally wrong. Alrighty. Let's see. David Anthony asks, what do I like to do for fun when I'm not writing? Do I still play or DM? Well, yes, I do still play. I play probably almost twice a week. I just played a game last night of Invisible Sun, in fact. But we also do playtesting, which is always fun as well. And sometimes, some weeks, almost play 3 times, but those are rare. It's usually once or twice. It kind of goes back and forth. Every other week is twice. And I DM on occasion. I usually end up DMing more for conventions than around here, but I do it. I'm always writing, and so it's fun to play test. playtesting is not always work, right? Playtesting can be just for fun and games, and that's all. That's how we like to do it as well, because that gives us both our fix and allows us to find out, oh, that might need a little tweak or something as well. I also enjoy, reading, watching TV, exercising. I fly a drone. I was doing martial arts for many years, but the time commitment for that got to be a little too severe. So I don't do the direct martial arts anymore. More just general fitness and exercise and that sort of thing. Travel. Play video games myself. I just actually been playing a lot of Overwatch. Been playing a lot of Diablo 3, and I also just got Mass Effect Andromeda. And that looks like I could just lose myself down that rabbit hole, so kind of have to stay back from that and only allow myself to play that as a reward for when I've written everything I need to write, and if I'm working on any other projects to finish that off as well. Right now I've got my plates pretty full because about a year and a half ago, I don't know, a while ago, there was a video game Kickstarter called Bard's Tale 4, and as a reward, I was one of the people who was tapped on the tabletop RPG side of things to design a dungeon for Bard's Tale 4. So I'm also doing that in my off time, so being kept pretty busy right now. So. Let's see. Oh, looks like Trampus is back. He says, "How fun was it to do Gamma World?" So, in the waning, that's not the right way of saying it, but after a few years of 4th edition being out, we decided to do Gamma World again, and that was a really great. It was really fun, just in a short way of saying it. But Rich Baker and I were just said, "Here, you guys get to do Gamma World," and that was it, right? We just went off into our found conference rooms, and we met every day, and we talked everything out, and then we divided things up, divided things up, and it was great fun, right? Because we had a little bit of leeway to be a little goofy because it was Gamma World, and it was funny because neither one of us, I think, previously had been the sort of people to embrace that sort of aspect of Gamma World. And when we were younger, I guess. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn for Rich, but for me, I enjoyed kind of playing a little Gamma World a little bit more seriously. This is serious. But the nature of the character creation in Gamma World, where you just kind of roll on these tables and your type and abilities are kind of just selected, and you could end up being a like a flying robot or a flying yeti or a monkey who wheels for legs or what. I mean, just pretty much some crazy stuff. But it ended up working surprisingly well, and the simplicity that the game allowed us to have as well, it was a really sort of as far as I was concerned, breath of fresh air. The complexity was kind of 4th edition was tamped down in this game to allow you to just have some fun. And I really loved working on it. Rob Schwalb came on board and helped us out with the second expansion for it. And Richard Baker and I then wrote the 3rd expansion. And the cards were really fun too. It was kind of one of those things where like, hey, you guys, we'd like you to use these cards for your RPG. And we're like, oh, really? Okay, well. And it turned out to be really great because we had the alpha mutations and the special artifact equipment, and those were really fun to write. And just pulling these cards out and using them as a part of gameplay turned out to be not. I don't think I would have intuitively said it would be so fun, but to have a physical object that you find and have as a card turned out to be really great. It's actually something we do a lot of now at MCG. Not because of that, but I was certainly open to the idea of using decks to generate interesting ideas or XP or whatever. So yeah, Gamma World set the stage for me for that. So that was really great. And looks like we've come to the end of our questions. But if anyone has any other questions or observations or anything off topic, I'm up to a point. Certainly willing to entertain those as well. It's possible you guys can hear my dog snoring in the background. Her name is Tesla. I put her in her kennel so she wouldn't run over here and wonder why I'm talking not to her. But that's the snoring sound that you're hearing off in the corner there. Let's see. Well, I guess I could. Why don't I tell you a little bit about. Let's pretend that someone asked me this question. Hey, Bruce. Can you tell us a little bit more about your latest novel, Myth of the Maker? Well, sure, person who I'm making up. Basically, in this, I thought I wanted to write a science fiction novel after writing all the fantasy novels for Forgotten Realms, and I thought that would be a nice, fresh and obvious break, and something new to try. And one of the questions I wanted to answer was Fermi's paradox. And that if you're familiar with that, that is Enrico. Some physicist from a while ago, Enrico Fermi, was pretty much posed a question to colleagues, his colleagues at the time, saying, why in this huge, vast universe is no evidence for other life when it seems like, planets and stars are out there? And, Drake's equation, I don't know if it had been out yet or not, but Drake's equation shows that all these planets, life should exist. We have no existence for it. And, lots of novels have tried to answer that question. Lots of stories, lots of science fiction has tried to answer that question. I said, well, I have a new way to answer this question. So that's kind of the background to what I wanted to do. Essentially, I guess the pitch for the novel would be that there's the main character, Carter Morrison, was a computer programmer, and because of what he meddled with and discovered with him and his team, 6 people, he basically ended up having to kill himself and his friends and trap their avatars, their minds, in this alternate reality called the Strange. It's actually dark. Scientists call it dark energy, but it basically, the Strange consists of at least as around Earth, these onion layers of fictional worlds, limited worlds called recursions, and these protect the Earth from the entities that lie farther out in the dark energy network in the Strange, called planetivores. But him and his friends found dealing with that variously difficult, and at least one of his friends, Jason Cole, decided no, he was not going to be bound into this world, into this fictional world. He wanted back into the real world, and he would get back to that world at any cost. So that's kind of the setup for Myth of the Maker. And thank you, person I just made up, for asking me about that question. And this is on my mind right now because that novel just came out 2 days ago. At least the softcover version of it just hit the shelves 2 days ago from Angry Robot Books. So, and we are going to have a deluxe hardcover version of that a few weeks from now coming out as well. Lots of people actually already have pre-ordered that, or we had it as part of a Kickstarter. So, but it's available for other people to order as well once it becomes available. So, Mike, do you have any other questions or anything else you would like me to touch upon, or anyone else watching? Because I'm happy to answer those questions. We have a little bit more time left, but if it turns out that we don't have any more questions, I will think about calling this a little bit early, because I don't think I like looking at my face, smiling and saying nothing into the camera. All right, going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to watch this live AMA. It was a very interesting experiment, and I think it went smashingly. I really enjoyed talking to all of you, and thank you for your great questions. And you can always, of course, ask me questions just generally, either here in the Realms archives if you tag me, or on my own Facebook page, or on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at R.Cordell. I'm just generally around. I'm writing still, both novels and games, and happy to interact. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.